Pembrey is a horror adventure game made by Cracked Ghost Games and was officially released on July 5th. In short, this is a supernatural mystery that feels a lot like a walking simulator. You follow two main characters, Andrew and Isabel, as they travel to the small UK town of Pembrey to investigate a haunted forest for their documentary show. After a few days of investigating, they and a couple of the locals decide to search the forest in earnest, and that to me is where the real game begins. There isn't really any combat to speak of, and the few areas you do encounter an enemy, your main goal is to avoid them at all costs as you run through a maze-like area with minimal lighting. The story of Pembrey was something I highly enjoyed, and while the game ended rather abruptly and felt like more of a teaser to something larger, it still managed to keep me hooked until that point. Hell, even beyond that point, as I would love to see what happens after that ending. In all honesty, this story is not that unique. In fact, it's not unique at all. Film crew goes into the forest, promptly dies. The interviews you can find throughout the game did add an extra element to this though, and it made me feel more invested in not just the characters, but the area and its lore as well. I wanted to find out more about the legend of Pembrey Forest as I played. The maps were also put together in a nice, professional way that didn't feel too cluttered, even though they were pretty much on the rails. Even when I was running from an enemy, the maze I was running within felt logical, if that makes sense. There were choke points, but also areas and rooms to give enough space to dodge and run, so I never felt like I'd made a fatal mistake if I took a wrong turn. And the use of lighting in the game was borderline genius. You had enemies hiding within dark shadows, a claustrophobic atmosphere as you can only see so far in front of your character. When you coupled that with the lack of music within the game, it created a tense, terrifying atmosphere that I don't think a lot of RPG Maker games really hit the mark on. The game is not without its faults, however, and there are a few. There are numerous bugs and errors, though to be fair, the dev is incredibly attentive and tries to fix them ASAP. But one rather unforgivable sin is that one of the main focuses of the game is to document things as you come across them, while you're collecting interviews and exploring. So where is the issue? The problem occurs when you document. The game gives you an item, quote unquote, that you can't use or see. Originally, and this was in the original demo that I played of the game, these items offered a little bit of a more detailed lore that helped flesh out the story. But an unforeseen bug in the game's development in the engine itself and an add-on script used prevents the inventory from being accessed without the game crashing. There's no known fix. So as a sort of band-aid, the developer removed the ability to see the inventory. I both agree and disagree with this decision, personal opinion time, because a lot of the game's story is tied to that discovery mechanic and what those items tell you. If the script is so necessary to the game, why not give some sort of alternative to seeing this lore, such as when you click an item that's to be discovered, it gives you the text of what that item would have told you anyway in the inventory. Something like that. In my mind, without these little tidbits, it kind of feels like half of a game. Also, there are a few jump scares, but they're basically really loud noises. To the point where I wish they had either been severely muted or removed entirely. Sure, I jumped. Who wouldn't? But it wasn't because of the scare factor, more of the, oh my god, my ears are bleeding. Is this game worth getting? Overall, Pembrey has a chilling atmosphere and clocks in at a little over 2 hours of playtime. There's a solid beginning of a great story here, but sadly not enough meat on the bone to really sink your teeth into. I am going to say yes, I do recommend it, but it's a tentative recommendation. It's well worth it for fans of the genre who are looking for a nice quick game that can be completed in a single sitting. Those who are more on the fence or far more critical of stories like this that don't have a whole lot of, depth to them at the moment, you're better suited waiting for a sale, or honestly passing it by. You won't get out of this game the same thing I think that hardcore fans would. I'm HawkZombie, and that was what I thought of Pembrey. Thanks for listening. If you like this review and want to see more like it, then go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Or if you really like it, go ahead and throw me a subscription over at my Patreon page. I can't really do this without the support of those like you, and the more support I get, the more videos I'm able to do.